My name is Mary Rader. Among other things I do here at the library, I'm the South Asian Studies librarian. That's my chair. And I'm delighted to welcome you to another in our series of the Digital Scholars in Practice series here at the library. This is an ongoing series started by now, as of this morning, Dr. Katie Pierce-Meyer, who's our librarian at the Architecture Library, and a former graduate student, Jessica Aberle. And what we're trying to do in this series of Digital Scholars in Practice is to be a little bit less theoretical about what we mean in terms of digital scholarship, and instead trying to say, what are people actually doing in practice? What can we learn from each other? And what kind of models can we examine collectively? Today we are delighted to welcome Dr. Jishnu Shankar here to talk a little bit about Hindi for Health. Dr. Shankar has lots of degrees, including from Delhi University, from the Indian Institute of Mass Communication, from the Delhi School of Economics, and for folks who don't know, all of those are super prestigious institutions in India. And his PhD is from Syracuse University in anthropology, where his dissertation was, I'm going to pronounce it wrong, Aghoreshwar, thank you, Bhagawanram and the Aghor tradition, which is his dissertation. He has been at UT in the Department of Asian Studies since 2007 as a senior lecturer, and he has done a lot of publications of his own works as well as translations, particularly on the Aghori tradition, which for folks who don't know is an ascetic tradition of spiritual, mystical folks largely in India, but not only. And that's where the majority of his publications are, but he also has worked a lot on innovative Hindi instructional pedagogy. And so what we want him to talk to us a little bit about today is a particular open educational resource that he and some of his collaborators have created called Hindi for Health, but I'm sure he will talk to us a lot about what that means in terms of his work. Two things before I let him start. There are handouts on the table that there are two. One is this little assessment form. If you could fill it out before you leave and just leave it on the table, we'll collect it. This is for library purposes and decision-making purposes, so take it seriously. And then the other one is a handout that Dr. Shankar has prepared to go along with this talk. Please help me in welcoming Dr. Jishnu Shankar.
Thank you, Mary. Kent, can you hear me clearly? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, and I must confess I am honored and just a little bit intimidated. Dr. Herman van Alphen and Dr. Rupert Snell are both here, and my longtime friend and colleague Jonathan Seefeld, whom I just spotted here after many years. And so it is a pleasure to have them all in audience over here. So without much further ado, let me launch into this talk. As you can see, Hindi Urdu for health.org is the name of is the URL for our website. It's called Language for Health. And this website is a unique resource, open freely to everyone, in both Hindi language and Urdu language. It contains more than definitely 100, close to 150 video clips where we try to demonstrate how see, will you blame me if I feel important? Where students, NGOs, or businesses, whoever wishes to learn something about how health and health-related topics are talked about in India, they will find this to be a useful resource. I do have a PowerPoint, and I will get to you in just a minute. Let me just show you how we first conceived of this website. Right here you will see three sections to the website. One says medicine, the other says healthcare, and the last one says public issues. So these are the three main areas that we are dealing with in this website, and then under each one of them we have what you could think of as chapters. So under medicine we have got traditional methods of medicine, you have got Ayurveda, and you have got Unani. Now those are not the only two systems of medicine in India, but they are the two most prominent traditional traditions of medicine. And then of course you have got convention, something that in India we called allopathic medicine as opposed to Ayurvedic medicine and Unani medicine. Then under the healthcare section you have got chapters on nutrition and hygiene and dentistry and demographics. And then under public health issues you have got things like illness and advocacy, health education, ethics and culture, Medicare and insurance, and South Asia specific topics. So this is a fairly comprehensive website, and the reason why we built this website. Oh, this one is not working, Kent? And that one is not working, and none of them is working. Did I do something, Kent? Did I move the cart? Okay. So what if you go back to this website and let's see if that shows up? No? Even that doesn't show up. So okay, that's back. And then the PowerPoint. And that's back. All right? Hmm?
It's just showing the wrong screen.
It's visible now.
Is it doing
Hi.
it now?
It's backwards.
It's showing the wrong view, the wrong spot.
So this one is now a PowerPoint thing.
Yes.
It didn't go away.
No, that didn't go away.
Yeah.
No, no, that's okay. I just hope Kent deletes this recording.
Are you still recording?
Yes, but we'll edit that.
Okay.
Nope, now
And
it's
then
not
it
there.
disconnected again.
And it's not disconnected, it's just not showing the presentation.
Oh, so is it going to the next slide?
It's not sending out anything.
No, this is running from right
Oh,
here,
okay.
the
Let's
flash
try that.
drive. No, that's all right.
This right here.
Yeah.
There might be something with the PC. Because it's not, look how it's not actually, yeah, it's not doing anything. There's a screen there, it's just not showing.
Yeah, what second
It's
screen?
because off the screen. We might need to try the light.
Or
So,
do you want to just do it without your PowerPoint?
Well,
You tell me.
I can see the PowerPoint right here, so I
Yeah,
can keep
just
on
talk.
talking. And the clips that I have to show, that, I don't know, if the website shows up, then we can do that. Okay, now, if it stays here, this is good.
Sabash.
बहुत अच्छे. Okay, very good, very good. All right. This has happened to Steve Jobs, and this has also happened to the chief of Apple. So I'm in good company. So as I was saying, we created this website after some discussion. Hindi Urdu Flagship is a federally funded institution, and one of the mandates of that federal funding is that we create cutting-edge pedagogical material on subjects which are generally not dealt with in a regular classroom for a variety of audiences, which includes not just students, but also, for example, NGOs or even businesses. So we deliberated, and then we realized that in our Hindi and Urdu classes, we usually have lots of students who want to go into medicine. They all want to become doctors. So we had a choice of topics before us. We could have done something with the legal system, legal services. We could have done something with businesses in India. But we decided on medicine because it has got a lot of variety and a lot of potential. And then we decided that to to have the largest use for this website and sustained use for this website, it is best to have as much collaboration as possible, because once people have something at stake, they have put in their own effort and energy, then they are more likely to use it. So we collaborated with New York University and Columbia University. And then, of course, there was this long process of application for funding from liberal arts instructional technology. There used to be a FASTEX program. I don't think FASTEX exists anymore at UT. Applied for that and got some money to build databases for medical vocabulary, Institute for International Education, and of course the language flagship program. And then of course we brainstorm about what topics we will put into the website. And then there was the process of how to integrate the database with the website presentation, sessions with software developers and program developers for the lates. And then we decided to finally host this website, the databases, the film clips, everything on Drupal. And Emily Ciccini was the overall supervisor. And then there was Mingong, who was my programmer, who is not at UT anymore. He has moved on. So things have changed in the Hindi-Urdu language for health platform world. However, once we had designed the database, after that we had the job of, well, database of the vocabulary and the topics, we had the job of actually shooting the film in India. And then there was the process of looking for a film professional who could organize the whole shoot, because we wanted to have film clips from urban areas, semi-urban areas, and rural areas, because all those areas have different styles of speaking in Hindi and Urdu, and different styles of interacting with the patients. So we did all that, and then finally the film shoots took place. The excellent film shoots were sent to me, and I was the one who kind of chopped them up into little pieces based on a certain kind of pedagogical foresight, you could say, and divided into different topics, put it into the database, and then we had to have the whole thing transcribed in Hindi as well as Urdu, build the questions based on it, and so forth, and then the website became presentable. So Mary had asked me to talk about a little bit about what difficulties do people who create such open resources are likely to face. And the first one that comes to my mind, which actually led to our project being started a year late, was that despite the fact that we got funding, the process of aligning the budget workings of UT with NYU took us almost a year. And that complication threw our schedule back by 1 year, and all the arrangements that we had made with the film shooters, with the programmers, that got held back. So that budget collaboration was a major hurdle. In fact, it got so bad at one point, I was asking my colleague at NYU to look over the budget again and then modify these things and those things. And she said, do we really need to have this collaboration? Maybe we should break it. I said, no, no, no. Don't be hasty. Don't be hasty. Things can be worked out. Maybe you will never do a project with me again, but this time, just stay put. And finally, somehow, it did work out. Then search for a filmmaker, that wasn't easy. It's very expensive. And then, of course, to have a filmmaker who speaks good Hindi, reasonably good Urdu, or very good Urdu and reasonably good Hindi, knows all the areas and have the infrastructure to execute such a thing. That was a problem, but we managed to get through that with the help of contacts in India. Then, of course, you have to find doctors who are willing to talk to you and who are willing to have you shoot their interactions with their patients. And this is important because gender relations being what they are in India, you can probably shoot things with male patients quite easily, but with female patients, it is extremely difficult. So we had to go through that. And then if any of you has ever tried shooting a film in India, even on your iPhone, you will realize that in the background there is the constant noise of cars honking and scooters going kiki, and if you are in a city like Banaras or Kanpur or Lucknow, the tring, tring, tring of the rickshaws and the hawkers and everything. So ambient noise is too much, and of course the light problems. So those were some of our problems while shooting. And then, of course, we had the funding for, I think, a 2-year cycle. Because our project got set back by a whole year, we realized that that the original plan could not be executed as we had envisaged it, and we will have to modify it. By then, the students that we had hired to transcribe the website into Hindi and Urdu were beginning to move on. And then, of course, there was this small but significant question raised that, okay, those interviews are fine, but if we are going to turn the entire website from Hindi into Urdu, well, there are some Ayurvedic doctors speaking in Hindi. When we translate that into Urdu, we just don't speak about certain things in Urdu in that way. So can we change the words and the language? But then it doesn't remain true transcription. It becomes a different kind of an activity. So, but we got over all those kinds of difficulties. And in the interest of time, I have selected only 3 clips to show to you. In the first clip, we have a Vaidyaji, an Ayurvedic doctor from the semi-urban area on the outskirts of Delhi, who talks about how he diagnoses disease by checking the pulse on the basis of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, air ailments and phlegm ailments and bile ailments. And in the second clip, you have a Hakimji talking about the same thing. And yes, I have chosen these 2 clips intentionally because they talk about the same kinds of things. And in the third clip, you have a doctor interacting with a female patient, and it's interesting to watch. So let's see if this works. Got it? Oh. Okay. Really? Okay, here we go. This puzzle piece? Okay, allow once. Always would have been better, but too late. Okay, and let's see.
ये वायु की नाड़ी है जो ये प्रति काल है प्रति काल करती है वायु की नाड़ी वात की नाड़ी है जो ये लिखा है ना पश्चामा बोलेगा डब्ल्यू की साधु से क्या थोड़ी दूर तक का सारी है नाड़ी करते ये नाड़ी है जो नाड़ी करते मुझको पे जलों का सर्दियोत्तम वायु की नाड़ी जो और सड़क की तरह चलती है जी और काक बंधु गतिचित का कोष है पित्त की नाड़ी कागा जैसे उछल कूद कर चलता है ना काग उछलता है और मंडूक विंध्य से कूदता इस क्रिया करती है राजहंस पार्वती का कोष है कफ की नाड़ी राजहंस बत्तख की क्रिया आहिस्ता आहिस्ता जैसे राजहंस हंस आराम से बच्चे चलता है ना ऐसे चलती है नाड़ी कफ की।
Okay, so this was interesting because this Vaidyaji in a village outside of Delhi is trying to explain how he diagnoses whether it's a Vata ailment or a Kapha ailment or a Pitta ailment by the way the pulse moves. Now here we just say pulse, okay, he's alive, he's dead, okay. But there it's the movement of the pulse which he's trying to describe by recalling a Sanskrit verse which describes the way pulse moves. Okay, Vat, if you've got an air ailment, it moves like a snake. And then if it's a cough ailment, it's like a crow that jumps and so on and so forth. So that was kind of interesting. Then we go to our second. Oh, how do I move? Alt tab, and we go to this one. Now we have Hakimji who explains a similar thing.
पैथी में और एलोपैथिक और यूनानी पैथी जो है वो नेचुरल है, मिजाज के मुताबिक है और इनका कोई साइड इफेक्ट एक्शन नहीं है। लेकिन एलोपैथिक में जो है उनकी दवाएं जो है ज़रा सा भी उसमें अगर कमी बेसी हो तो उनका साइड इफेक्ट और एक्शन बहुत है, उससे नुकसान बहुत है। दूसरे वो दवाएं बहुत उससे पूरी टेस्टिंग के बाद ही दे पाते हैं, बगैर टेस्ट रिपोर्टों पे एक्सरे और लेबॉर्ट्री टेस्ट जो टेस्ट होते हैं लेबॉर्ट्री टेस्ट, बगैर उसके वो दवाओं को तजवीज़ नहीं कर सकते। जबकि हमारी जो है वो नब्ज़ देखकर ही नब्ज़ की रफ्तार से पता लग जाता है और मरीज़ के हालात देख के ये इसको क्या तकलीफ है और कौन सी दवा है। क्या चीज़ है आप कहते हैं कि आप नब्ज़ नब्ज़ जो है खून का एक दौरान जो है उसकी एक रफ्तार नॉर्मल जो होती है वो तरह से तो होती है परमानेंट। तो उसके अंदर जो खाली पेट जो होती है वो नॉर्मल पोजीशन में जो हम देखते हैं उसके अंदर जो कमी बेसी आती है कि बढ़ गई है, कम हो गई है, कम गई है, उससे हो जाता है। ये तजर्बा है देखने का, उससे अंदाजा हो जाता है कि अपना क्या पेट की बीमारी है, इसको ऐसा है या दर्द है, ऐसा है फीवर वगैरह भी उसको देखने पता लग जाता है फीवर कितना है। मैं जानना चाह रहा था कि जैसे आयुर्वेद कहते हैं बात पे कब आपकी तरफ क्या हम हमारे पूरी बात पे कब कहते हैं हमारी वजह सौदा कपड़ा बल्ला में
Just heard about difficulties of shooting in India.
हमारे यहाँ सौदा कपड़ा बल्ला ये तीन हैं मेरा। क्या सौदा क्या है, कपड़ा क्या है? सौदा जब बढ़ जाती है तो वो खून के अंदर जो है इंटरडाइजन बढ़ती है, उससे एलर्जी वगैरह की बीमारी हो जाती है। कपड़ा का जो हो जाता है बढ़ जाता है, कुछ चीज़ें कम होती है तो उसका लीवर पे और नजर का असर पड़ता है, जिससे आदमी को खाना हजम नहीं होता, वो बढ़ जाती है, उल्टियाँ हो जाती है। और बलगा भी मिजाज जो है जब वो बढ़ जाता है तो उससे नजला जुकाम बलगम बनता है, सब में दर्द और उसके इन्फेक्शन से जो है वो फीवर वगैरह हो जाता है। एक चीज़ और हमसे लगा था कि जैसे आयुर्वेद आप दोनों तरफ कर सकते हैं, दोनों हाथ तो क्यों फर्क क्या है? वो दोनों की उसका फर्क है, दोनों का मिलाया जाता है, किसमें कितना उनका रिप्रेजेंट किया जाता है, मिल जाता है।
Okay, so this was very interesting because Vat, Pitta, Kaph exists also in Unani, but they call it Sauda, Safra, and Balgam. That's one. Second was that most VAIS, the Ayurvedic doctors that I have seen, tests just one hand for the pulse. Hakim Sahab, on the other hand, tests both and then compares and then makes his diagnosis. But the important thing is that the speech pattern and the rate of speech and the concepts being talked are so similar that an intermediate, high, or advanced level student can easily discern what is going on and also compare the vocabulary that Hakim Sahab uses as compared to the Vaidya Ji. Okay? And then we move on to the third clip, which is a little long, so I might not actually show the whole of it, but let's see. How are we doing on time, Mary? Okay.
आप सुबह से शाम तक भोजन क्या करते हैं? ब्रेकफास्ट में क्या लेती हैं? गेहूं का दलिया? तो ब्रेड कितने पीस के लिए आते हैं? कितने पीस का ब्रेड? ब्रेड और चाय? ब्रेड और चाय? और सब्जी? नहीं, ब्रेड चाय लेती है, फिर खाना खा के रोटी सब्जी लेकर जाती है। और क्या बजे स्कूल से वापस आती है? 4 बजे तक खाने में क्या रहता है? रोटी सब्जी, दाल चावल सब्जी, उसके बाद रात को फिर रोटी और दूध। आप क्या भाई बहन हैं? एक भाई छोटा बस, तो बहन आप सबसे बड़ी हैं, छोटी की शादी होगी। आपके कितने बच्चे हैं? शादी के कितने वर्ष हो गए? 3 साल।
Okay, so I will stop it over here, but it is very interesting in terms of the kinds of conversations you are likely to find in India. ठीक है ना? And in the handout that is probably on your table, which says how to use this video website, some of these clips can be used very profitably, even at the intermediate level. But you will probably be able to talk more about cultural aspects of the medical system in India, not necessarily all of the language part of it, but you can always talk about gestures, the way female patients talk to doctors as opposed to the male patients who talk to the doctors, the kinds of issues that are raised, in what kind of a voice they are raised, and all those sorts of things. So we had conceived of this website mostly for advanced students and above, because you might have noticed that the rate of speech is natural and normal, but the accents are rather strong. As soon as you move out of a given region, for example, the metropolitan city of Delhi, the accent changes totally. And so if one is not familiar with the effect of Haryanavi accent or Punjabi accent or so forth, at the normal rate of speech for a student who is not exposed to these kinds of language patterns becomes difficult. So advanced level and above, with the repetition in viewing this website and listening to the clips again and again is very helpful for listening comprehension and so forth. But as I mentioned, some of it can be used also for intermediate level students. This is a resource freely available to the world. I get good reports from Europe, from my colleagues in Syracuse, Chicago, and so on. It's being used by people, but things grow old, people move on to other things, and we realize now we intentionally did not go in for English translation, because we did not want our students to just read the English translation and not pay attention to the spoken Hindi or Urdu. Now we realize that for it to be beneficial to NGOs and businesses and so forth who have no intention of getting into the role of students, it would have been much better had this site been translated into English. As we mentioned earlier, we need to come up with better systems of dealing with budgets between two institutions, which can be very harrowing. We had discussed that maybe with the website we should also produce a certain kind of printed handbook with pictures and instructions how to use lessons for each one of these sections and so forth. And the idea is good, and the idea is still possible to execute, but the moment you get into physical production of material, you have got costs, and then how do you recuperate those costs? This is supposed to be a free resource for everybody. The moment you produce something, what do? You just distribute freely, or you begin to sell it. If you begin to sell it, accounting, this, that, everything, it becomes a big, harrowing task. So also for a DVD, which could be produced for this, for those regions especially where streaming internet is not available, because these are high quality video clips and it takes some bandwidth to download them, and so on and so forth. So all in all, I would still say this is an excellent resource which is being used quite profitably by our colleagues in America as well as in Europe. Some may be in India, but it could be made much more useful, and I will show you some parts of it. Let me just go to the home page, and I will show you, for example, how it works. So if you click on, say, any one of these clips over here, you see you got an option of seeing this in Hindi or in Urdu. And on this very topic, Ayurvedic practice, you have got several lessons, several clips which can be turned into lessons, and you have got the transcript, because this is so far in Hindi. If I do it in Urdu, then it will change, and it should show it in, oh, it will show it in Urdu where? Down here. Okay, so it shows you in Urdu. Actually, it is supposed to just turn into Urdu. The site isn't functioning as well right now, but it should just turn into Urdu. So you have got vocabulary based on that, and you have got transcription in Hindi, and then further down, transcription also in Urdu, and then some questions based on it. So I think it's a great resource with a very good exposure of the medical systems in India in various geographical regions. And depending upon how we plan to use these for pedagogical purposes in our classrooms, it can be enhanced even more. Thank you. Mary, I'll stop there. Questions? Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yes. This one. This one up here. Yeah, this is a video clip with my voice in it, and it describes how India is a great land and ancient culture and ancient monuments and so forth. You can listen to it, but since it's my voice, I would prefer you heard it in the privacy of intimate company of your computer, yes. Yes. Okay, so it happened in two steps, in two phases, shall we say. So the first part was where we did shooting over the Christmas break in Delhi and its surrounding areas. It was very cold, and very foggy, but we managed to find a few doctors, and the Ayurvedic doctor is from just outside of Delhi. That was the first phase, which yielded very good interviews with about 10 or 12 people, including patients in their own versions of Hindi. Then it still left us with certain topics uncovered that we had visualized initially. So after 1 year's time, we applied for a little more funding, and then we went to the Gorakhpur and Uttar Pradesh area, and then we had a second phase of film shoots, and that included naturopathy and hygiene and so forth. So it was in 2 phases. Oh yes, sorry, didn't see that.
I just have a quick question about the Unani method of education, right? If I'm not mistaken, the word Yunan means Greece, right?
Yes.
So why is it called the Greek method?
Okay, now Akbar, my colleague and friend, is right here. He can probably enlighten you, but I think it is called because Ayurveda, being an ancient system with all the diagnosis of the pulse and the vata, pitta, kapha variation, I don't know, with Alexander or before that, began to migrate to Greece, and then it developed over there, and then it began to filter into surrounding areas where it developed even more, and then came back to India. So that's why it's called that. That's my take on that. That's what I have read. But Akbar, if you want to add to it, please feel free to do that. Short and sweet. Yes. They are basically comprehension questions. Basically comprehension questions, because you are supposed to, at an advanced level, if you have looked through the vocabulary and then you listen to the clip, can you make out what is being talked about, more or less in very, very large brush strokes? We never expect a student to comprehend 100% of whatever we are talking about, even in the classroom. But the skill is to figure out what is being talked about, and guessing is also a pedagogical skill. Can they guess what's going on and then move forward to have some kind of an interaction? So that's what the question. They are not extremely specific. They are general. Yes. Yes.
Were all these videos shot in India?
Yes.
Or was it filmed in Pakistan as well?
No, because given the policies of the government of federal government, if you are being funded, they prohibit you from going into certain areas. These were shot in India. Yes. Okay, the website by itself is more or less complete. It can be tweaked to function better. Then there are certain sections of the website, such as resources, which is very, very important, because it's not just our film clips which are there on this website. We have also collected, say for example, certain hospitals have documents in Hindi about some ailments and their descriptions and how to diagnose them. We have put them here. If certain NGOs have provided educational material on a disease, something, we have put it there. In fact, we have also put in some documents about house remedies and so forth, the way we use spices, turmeric for an ailment, or tamarind for an ailment, or cumin for those kinds of things, also to give you a much more comprehensive. This can always be updated. It's a constant process. But in terms of the website itself, I think the number of clips for, say for example, female infanticide or hygiene, you can always shoot more to bring in many different viewpoints. But as a representative sample, I think the website is complete. Huh? Well, that's an interesting idea, because you are right. For example, if I know Hindi and I understand Vat, Pitta and Kapha, but I don't really understand Urdu and I don't know what is Sauda and what is Safra, then it will help to have a master list. I am afraid we don't have that. We don't have that. But I do note there are medical dictionaries available. And we could use some parts of those to build such a section over here. But no, we haven't gone inside each transcription and kind of collated the words to make a master list. Yes, Rupert ji.
Did you have any problem with non-necessary switching and requirement of speech? Sometimes it's tempting to ask people to speak some Hindi and let Hindi. I want the pedagogical tool.
Yes.
To expose to not Hindi as possible. But I dare say quite a lot of middle class interviewees that reject quite a lot of language.
They could. And in the beginning of urban interviews, we would usually say, we are going to ask you certain questions in Hindi, and they would usually comply. Outside of the urban areas, this wasn't such a problem. The problem was understanding the accent. And if you noticed, with the Hakim Sahab, the fly actually had a role to play, because it led our film shooter to ask the question again, which made Hakim Sahab repeat his reply again. So you got to hear the same answer twice. And so as a pedagogical tool, we have that happening in some other clips also. It helps. But in terms of asking people to not code switch, not too much, not too much. Even Hakim Sahab used normal hai, you know, those kinds of things. That much is to be expected. In fact, this website is now what, at least couple of 3 years old or so, and Hindi has changed so much. Even more English terms have crept in. So in a certain sense, to be realistic even towards our students, I wonder if it is good to tell them, okay, this is normal medical speech, or to say, you know, they should be using this word. But you can always say, there is this word which exists, which, as you can see, many people choose not to use, because it has become the new normal to use the new English word. There was a Don?
Question about the initial choice that you made. There were 3 categories you guys considered as
Yeah.
I'm curious if you hadn't, it's an assumption there that standard language classes wouldn't necessarily address those topics in great detail as a matter of course, because that you might not necessarily be core.
Sure.
There's an interesting assumption about what the core of language is there. I'm curious, what about, what other areas would you include there that could have websites along this line beyond law, medicine,
Oh.
but then whether that's whether that's just a solution that you thought about has this now influenced, are you doing more of this in your normal classes? So
Good question. In terms of possible subjects for such a website, there are many. There are many, because I have often thought about making one on festivals. I have often thought about making one on prominent tourist places and the way the guides guide you through those places, or middle class life, something like that. Medicine just seems to be, at that time, it seemed to be the best topic, because so many of our students wanted to pursue medicine, and we did an informal survey. We just sent out an email to our colleagues all over USA. How many of your graduate and undergraduate students want to pursue medicine when they graduate? And the answer was, the conclusion was 3/4 or more. We also knew that at UPenn, our colleague and friend Suren Gambhir was working on something for business. So we didn't want to encroach on anybody's territory. And since Ayurveda, Unani, Tibetan naturopathy, those are also so in your face in India that to make our students aware of these parallel medical systems, this was the right choice. But and now that this resource is there, I use clips from this in my classes when I'm talking about health and so forth. I know other people do it too. And we are thinking of developing a whole course based on this website about language for health in India. But then there are other topics, and tons of them, other subjects which can have this, including legal services, which in India is rather complicated, but that we can work on. But as we see, we do have to get over some of these collaborative issues of budgets and competing priorities and so forth. Unni? What is? Well, very good question. We would first ask the doctor. Once the doctor said yes, we would also talk with the patient. Not have a large conversation, but we will say, we are going to shoot this film, and do you have any objections? And they would usually say no. But there wasn't a form signed per se, no. No, not really, not really. We actually had to shoot whatever we got. And on a particular day, because the film crew has its own schedule. So we are going to be at this doctor's office from, say, 9 in the morning till 12 in the afternoon. Whatever happens in that period is what we get, because then the film crew has to move on and go to some other website, some other site. So no, we didn't try to discriminate between any of that, no. You had another question. Oh, okay, thank you.